Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Lydia and I'm obsessed with soup. This is the second installment of my soup series, which is an adjacent series to my Beating the Autumn Winter Saddies series. It's getting a bit confusing already. They're intertwined. They are really one, but they're two. To become one. I feel like you guys understand, you get it. Essentially, this is your extra video every week where I'm making my weekly soup and I'm making it with you. It's just my little piece of autumn winter fun. One could say it's a hobby of mine during the colder months. I just love making soup. Last week I made my first pumpkin soup. It felt appropriate for the time of year. This week I'm going with a similar theme. I'm going for what my nan calls her bonfire soup. Woo! Now here in the UK we celebrate something called, well, I guess it has many names. Bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night. Essentially, I mean, I really fully probably should look this up again just to make sure I'm right, but I'm sure it's a celebration of this guy that almost blew up Parliament. You know what? I don't know, I'm gonna Google it. Okay, we celebrate it to commemorate the failure of the gunpowder plot of 1605, where a guy called Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament. Why? I genuinely don't know. So, it beats me. Like, why do we celebrate Halloween? Actually, that's another really good question. Halloween's origins can be traced back to the ancient Celtic festival known as Samhain. Am I saying that right? I don't know. Which was held on November 1st in contemporary calendars. It was believed that on that day the souls of the dead returned to their homes, so people dressed in costumes and lit bonfires to ward off spirits. Interesting. Well, the more you know, I guess. But yes, so on the 5th of November we celebrate the failure of this man trying to blow up Parliament. It's firework night. We set off a bunch of fireworks. You also could have a bonfire, hence why my nan's soup is called bonfire soup. Does it have anything to do with firework nights / the bonfires? So I don't quite know how we've got here, to be honest. I don't know how like one meets the other, but she used to make this when we were children and I love it. So I thought, you know what, it's almost bonfire night. This also kind of is Halloweeny adjacent, pumpkin adjacent. So I just thought it was appropriate for today's soup. So let's get cracking. Oh, actually, just before we start, if you want to know the context behind this video and all videos going forward, I will try and link the first video in the Autumn Winter Saddies series here, or I'll at least link in the description if I can't put it on this. Actually, is it this side? I don't know, on a little card. It kind of sets the scene for you. If you feel like you want to see videos from me going forward and you want to get notified that they're existing, please subscribe and put the little notification bell on. Right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I can't link a recipe for this in the description because there probably is a recipe out there that's similar to this, but this was my nan's creation, I am led to believe. So you can't type in bonfire soup. Actually, you can, because I tried it to see what would pop up, but this exact recipe doesn't pop up when you type that in. There definitely will be a recipe similar, but I'm going to actually just write it out for you in the description if you fancy trying it. This is delicious, by the way. If I make it correctly, it's delicious. So for this soup, this is why I said it's pumpkin adjacent. You're gonna need a butternut squash. If you can get your hands on frozen, pre-cut butternut squash, fantastic. They had run out in Asda this week. Asda, please. Now you're gonna make me cut up this like I did the pumpkin last week, and we all know how that went. Luckily, I've cut many of these before and I've worked with butternut squashes many a time, so I feel better equipped this week to deal with her. We're gonna need a carrot, a white onion, and a potato. Oh, and roasted peppers. Obviously a stock cube. I'm also gonna put in some smoked paprika, and quite a lot of it too. I might add some cayenne pepper, but not a lot, just a little. I brought the iPad down because usually I put the recipe on here, but there isn't a recipe. I'm doing this from my brain. That one remaining brain cell that I have. Yeah, this is from that. I can't remember if someone commented on Reel or the last soup video about them just making their soup in a blender, but they might decide to invest in a soup maker. Making it in a blender is absolutely fine. You can also even make it in a big pan, one of them big giant like dishes on the stove, and then like blend it after. All of that is perfectly fine. We just had this. Mum bought this years ago, and she barely uses it. So last year when I started making my soups, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make you work. I'm gonna give you a purpose, and I love it. I do love it. First we're gonna deal with this bad boy, because this could take me a hot minute. Now, the way I usually cut a butternut squash is straight down the middle. Cut the ends off. I go in half again. This is much easier to work with than a pumpkin. Let me tell you that. I use butternut squashes all the time as kind of almost like my meat replacement in a lot of foods I eat. Love me a bit of butternut squash, so I know how to work with her. The pumpkin was a challenge, but that's the fun of making these soups. Like, I get to work with new vegetables, new things I've never cooked with before. Ooh. And then do exactly what I did with the pumpkin, just to make this easier for myself, by like cutting it into bits like this and then chopping the skin off like this, and that's one chunk done. I did it! I am once again, just like the pumpkin, concerned that this ain't all going in here. Oh, I'm gonna cry again. Right, let's try and do a technique to fix this. There used to be a running joke slash, I guess, bit over on my Instagram stories called Lydia versus onions, because I used to cry. Well, I do cry like all the time. I cried over a leek. Cutting a leek. Yeah, people told me many different things to do, and the one that seemed to work was a wet paper towel, like on your chopping board. I don't know. We'll try. If it fails, then well, I'll just cry, won't I? Well, I've had no tears yet, but that might be speaking too soon. How is everyone this week? I'm doing pretty good, because you know what? Carlos won the Grand Prix at the weekend. By the time this goes up, it will be race weekend already. But this is, at the time of recording, Tuesday for me. So it's still very fresh in my head. I didn't mean to wear red and talk about this topic, but it's a coincidence, I guess. I'm just so happy for him. I love that man. Obviously now Danny's left the grid. Carlos is bumped up into my #1 slot, so that was fantastic for me. I feel like he did that for Danny, and he did that for me. So thanks Carlos, I appreciate you. I wonder if Carlos likes soup. I wonder if any of them like soup. How do we find this information out? Also, like, what soup do I put with what driver? That could be a whole series in itself. If anyone has any suggestions for that, do let me know in the comments. That is something I would love to discuss, genuinely. I've not cried. I'm feeling a bit tingly. But it's worked because I've not cried. I think someone's about to knock on my door. At least I'm dressed, because usually I'm in my pyjamas, so a win's a win. I don't know if you've seen the videos of Carlos celebrating afterwards too, but there's like the ones of him at dinner with Lando and his family, which is just so cute. We love Carlando. Lando, you need to mature. I don't want to mature. I'm happy where I am. Oh, I love them. I love them. And then there's a video of him like being hoisted in the air during a Smooth Operator remix in a club. Oh, I'm just so happy for him. You know what? I do love Williams. It wouldn't have been my plan to see him in a Williams, but I love James Bowles. I love Al Bono, so I'm pretty happy about it. This is always like my dream team, because I do love Williams. Like, if someone pressured me into rooting for a team, I would pick Williams, because I just love them. I don't know why. I love an underdog. If you're like my dad and you like a thicker soup consistency rather than like a runny soup consistency, add a potato or add some lentils or something. That will make it thicker. So I'm adding a potato to this, because I want this one to be a little bit thicker than the pumpkin soup I made last week. Those soups I did last week, they went down very well Both my parents like them. Both my parents ate them. We absolutely demolished both jugs of soup. That was like 3 litres of soup. Slay. Do you want to know why I think I love Carlos and why I love Danny so much? Carlos is a Virgo and Danny's a Cancer. I'm a Pisces. Need I say more? It makes sense. Is this all gonna fit in the machine? I don't know. Oil in the bottom. I'm gonna put this in kind of in layers because I would need to know if I can fit all the butternut squash in. Onion first. Carrot. Yeah, I definitely don't think it's all gonna go in. So annoying. I'll have to put it in a risotto or a pasta or something a bit sharp. Still got to get the peppers in yet. Oh, can I open this? That's the big question of the day. Apparently if you have to hit it in the right place. Ah! Oh! Fucking nailed it. I'm gonna just put in as many of these as I possibly could fit. Oh, they smell delicious. It might tell me off for overfilling, but what's a girl gonna do? Da -da 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 -da. I'm gonna put half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a teaspoon of smoky paprika. I think we're ready. Just like last week, I'm gonna pop it onto smooth and it's ready to go. I'm gonna turn this into a little risotto or something. I'm not gonna waste it. It's done. Shh. If you can hear something sizzling away, it's my risotto in the background. It's bright orange. It smells really nice. It smells smoky. I'm just gonna let it cool down before I take a taste because I don't know if you can see the steam coming out of it, but it's hot. Hopefully it tastes as good as it smells and looks because that looks good to me. Here's some little risotto I whipped up in the meantime. Little butternut squash carrot risotto. Delicious. And now I have dinner prepared too. Fantastic. Oh, it's still so hot. It's lunchtime. I've got my bowl of deliciousness. It's now no longer too hot. It's the perfect temperature. I made my cheese toasty for the side. This is just stunning scenes to me. Beautiful. Let's give it a proper taste test. Now I can actually not burn my mouth off. That is nice. It does taste, as far as I remember, this does taste like my nan's soup. I'm glad I added a little bit of spice to it. It gives it an extra layer. This is nice, and the consistency is exactly what I wanted. A little bit thicker than the pumpkin soup, and that is because of the potato. This is a 10 out of 10. I really like this soup. I'm glad I chose to make this. Let's have it with a bit of toasty. If you fancy making this, as I said, I will try and leave you a recipe in the description. I'm gonna call it Bettie's Bonfire Soup because my nan's called Betty. And if you do make it, please let me know what you think and I will pass on your messages to my nan. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I'm gonna go eat my soup now and I will see you in the next video. Bye!